This is the 111th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the third week of October 2012. This episode is titled Titans of New York. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, Cloud Computing Experts. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me for the 111th time, 111, is the co-host, king of the podcast, Justin Elstein.
Thanks.
King of the podcast? I don't know. I had a little moment of love for you.
That was cool. Thanks.
It's gone.
Call me Titan of Podcast.
Titans of Podcasting. That's not bad.
I like this Titans of New York. It has a little double meaning for me.
Yes, it does.
And if anyone's smart out there, they'll know what I'm talking about.
But if you're not smart, you just got insulted.
Oh, that's not true.
Everybody who didn't get it, you're not smart.
If you're a big sports fan, you're
dumb. Just saying.
No.
All right.
If you're a sports fan, you'll get it.
So we have an agenda today. We are going to talk about the blog post, which leads us right into CloudForce, because the blog post is about CloudForce New York. We have an article on Salesforce looking to dump Oracle tech. Very cool. There's kind of a couple spins to that. There's actually a couple articles about it. And then one that came out on Customer Think. It sparked my interest this morning, which was everyone talking about Social CRM. Few are doing it. So we're going to give our spin on that.
Good topic.
Then we'll make our CloudFocus app picks of the week and go from there. So to start us off, the newest blog post up on blog.arkusinc.com from yet another person to not be named, although she's named in the article. Ooh, I said she. That kind of gives it away.
That throws it off.
Is about CloudForce New York.
She puts her Twitter handle in there.
She does. She does.
Everything has a byline with the Twitter handle at the bottom. I've had people reach directly out to me, which is nice, about blog posts I've written like months ago via Twitter. It's pretty cool. We like that when you do that. We also like when you comment on them and discuss, so we can have little conversations about our blog posts. So the blog post itself is about CloudForce New York, what to expect.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Asks a couple questions like, ooh, will we see this? Will we see that? Go read it. We're not going to sort of go over, what the blog post is all about, but we can start chatting up about CloudForce since it is tomorrow, and I'll ask you the question.
Go on.
Will it be... Ooh, you took my line.
I did.
Will it be any different, do you think, from DF12 other than the fact that it's one day instead of, 5?
There'll be many, many differences.
Go on.
All the taxis will be yellow.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It will be in a different venue. There will be...
So far, nothing
there will be lots of different people in the audience, although some of them will be the same. But the content will be 96.42% the same.
How'd you calculate that? That's scientific?
Yeah, it is.
Did you
scientific.
use a Google One Box to do that?
I find out... It's kind of, I'm almost looking forward to seeing this one more, strangely, because now that I've seen it, it's kind of like watching a movie for the second time. You get to go and watch, okay, now I'm not paying attention to that cool whatever. I'm listening to what he's talking about, or I feel like I'll just have a different view of it. I'll also be with some clients this time, which we weren't last time. It was just you and I in some crazy section. So sitting with clients, it's always kind of fun to sort of get their sort of oohs, ahs from it.
You get to lean over, give them a little nudge, and say, hey, look, that's you in a year.
Yeah.
You nudge them, you're like, how cool is that?
You'll be up there.
Not you'll be up there, but maybe. But it's more like, hey, isn't that cool? You give a little nudge, you can use that for this, or you can use this for that.
What I'm hoping for in the 3.24% left, the math doesn't make up.
No. Did you use pi in your calculation?
Maybe. 3.14. I'm hoping for a little bit more on the dates. It's one of the things I think didn't come out so much is this will be in public, this will be in private, this will be in whatever. I'd like a little bit more on the dates this time. A little bit more sort of, okay, it's been a month. And Winter 13's been out. So we actually have, some of this stuff is out and we can sort of stop talking about it. And now let's talk about the sort of stuff that's coming up. So I'll be interested to hear about that. For us, you and I actually, because I signed us up without asking you, we are going to be at the Tweet Up, which is in front of the command center. So I think they're setting up the social command center, the thing you wanted to see.
Yeah.
So I think if you want to see us, since we don't have a booth at this one, come to the Tweet Up at 3:30.
Is it 3 or 3:30?
I will check while we spend no time at all.
I think it was 3, but either 3 or 3:30. Come hang out, ask I think it'll be a ask the MVP type of situation. So if you have a question, come on over, ask us. We'll hopefully be able to answer it for you. It'll be a lot of fun. Come meet us in person. We know we have quite a few listeners here in New York. We look at our statistics. So hopefully you've heard this before CloudForce and getting ready for CloudForce, and you could come see us live and in person, as opposed to in a little cartoon like our logo.
Our logo. I'm actually looking for it now. I can't see if I can find it. I think it's 3:30 to 4. Actually, you know what? I can look on my calendar.
You can look on your calendar.
My calendar says Ask MVP 3:30 to 4.
3:30 to 4. So we'll be there for a half hour.
Yes. So both of us, actually with Judy.
With Judy Sohn.
Who's
a big nonprofit expert. Yes. So if you have nonprofit questions, I'm sure she'll be able to.
You could ask you.
Well, you can ask me too, but she's a big expert in that.
So it'll be kind of fun. I don't know. Are we tweeting our answers? I don't get what the tweet up like.
I think it's more of a. They just called it a tweet up. It's not really a tweet up. I don't think we're tweeting answers. I think it's more of a people are to follow some hashtag perhaps that wasn't given to us to know to come see us
CloudForce New York
at the tweet up in front of the command center.
So that's it.
Maybe we'll be answering questions via the command center. I don't know. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
But I think we're there to meet people in person.
By the way, I've been noticing that Salesforce has been, like, I tweeted something about CloudForce, and of course Salesforce tweeted back, great to see you there, happy. Like, they're sticking to their...
Stepping up their game.
They're sticking to their game, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but let's jump right now.
You want to jump, or you want to just give a quick overview of the schedule?
Oh, yeah, why don't we do that?
So, registration's open from 7:30 to 10, so you can get there as early as 7:30. There's actually a breakout session from 8:30 to 9:30.
Okay.
The first session of the day is not the keynote. And a lot of that first session is the product keynotes. So if you're really interested in Sales Cloud or Work.com or the platform or social or whatever, get there at 7:30, register, and go to your breakout session at 8:30. The Benioff Business's social keynote's not happening till 10.
Yeah.
So from 10 to noon, which you'll probably go over,
bring a snack.
And bring a snack. Expect to see the same keynote that you saw at Dreamforce or the one that's on YouTube.
Although he's going to be cutting it down because he spent 3.5 hours in the other one. So
there's lunch in the expo from 12 to 1. Awesome. And then after that, from 1 until 5, there are more product keynotes as well as breakout sessions. A lot of these seem to be more product driven, not so much like customer driven sessions like they are at Dreamforce. Right. A lot of these seem to be presentations from Salesforce.
That's actually great. Other than the 3:30 to 4, I'd like to actually go to one of the ones that I missed. I missed all of them at Dreamforce because I was doing other things. So it'd be interesting just to go to some of these and get some, get a little bit, see some of the product ones. I mean, I haven't watched them on YouTube.
Yeah, I would like to do that as well. I'd really like to see the Work.com one, but unfortunately, I'm meeting a client from 9 to 9:30. We actually, before the schedule came out, we thought we were meeting in the middle of the Benioff keynote because we were like, we can miss. We've kind of seen it.
Yeah.
So we'll miss a half hour of it. We'll just meet outside.
Right.
And that is not happening now.
Yeah. Okay. So CloudForce New York, hope to see you there again. If you want to, we don't have a booth, so it's going to be hard to sort of get us. If you want to come say hi, we will be at the tweet up 3:30 to 4.
You can also just tweet at us.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that there's some good Wi-Fi, good LTE happening. All right, next up on the agenda, this article, it's been hit a couple times. It's called Salesforce Looking to Dump Oracle Tech, and it stemmed from a Salesforce posting of jobs on their career site, looking for lots, and I think the number was 40 different developers of PostgreSQL or PostgreSQL, which immediately caught my eye only because I used to be a PostgreSQL guy. Like, I used to build PostgreSQL sites, and it was when the MySQL versus PostgreSQL world wars, not easy for me to say, were going on. I was always on the PostgreSQL side. It's much more, it's heavy duty. It had inner and outer joins way before MySQL. It was meant to be, and is meant to be, it's an open source database system, and it's meant to be a competitor for Oracle. So open source, totally free, built by developers, but it had the feature set that was more towards sort of Oracle than MySQL was more towards sort of just speed. Like MySQL was built to basically handle many reads, few writes, and not having a lot of complex stable database structures. PostgreSQL is always meant to be, a full-fledged enterprise class. Now, of course, it's hard to get hold in the enterprise world because, what are you going to use? Oracle or DB2 or this open source project that has an elephant for the logo? Oh, I don't know. Let's use Oracle. So I'm fascinated that, in sort of this storyline is that here's Salesforce, who got made fun of by Oracle at their open world for having Heroku, which supports PostgreSQL, and they're like, oh, well, it's so funny Heroku supports PostgreSQL, but all of Salesforce runs on Oracle tech. The entire back office or a database system, although they've developed a system on top of it that they've patented, runs on Oracle servers, Oracle database servers. So 40 people to get into the Postgres world, kind of makes it look like a little bit of a, hey, are we getting off this? Is Salesforce going to make a push into the open source world and sort of get rid of Oracle? Fascinating stuff.
It wouldn't be their first push into the open source world either. Like their search engine is an open source product,
yep.
Right? It's Lucene, I think.
Lucene, yeah.
Or Which at least it was Lucene. It may still be.
It's an Apache project,
right?
Yeah.
So
it is.
It wouldn't be their first foray into open source. This would just be an enormous change.
Yeah.
I mean, taking your database and moving it to another database, that's kind of a big deal.
That's massive.
And it's not just your database, it's everybody's database. Because
right.
As far as 95%, probably more, of Salesforce customers are concerned, their database is Salesforce.
Right.
Their database is not Oracle. They don't
right.
care. They don't know, and that's part of the fun. It's my database is Salesforce. So it's like, well, in some respects, it's like, I don't care. Just don't have Salesforce change.
Right.
Like I don't care. Just and in fact, if you can, just make it better. But I don't really care what you Salesforce use on the back end. If it's going to make it cheaper for me, that might be nice because it's open source versus something that you're probably paying Oracle a pretty penny for. But I'm not sure I care from an end user perspective.
No, as an actual Salesforce end user, like Quick's Not Code, button click admin type of guy, have no care. But a couple things. One is it does separate out Salesforce away from, while again, two ways to think about it. If you're a large enterprise, part of what the cities, the Morgan Stanleys, the these mega corps that are use Salesforce, they feel satisfied knowing that the back end, because they know that Salesforce isn't the database. They go, what's your database? We go, oh, it's Oracle. Okay, fine, right? And that's sort of a checkbox. So on the sort of high-end enterprise class customer, they care that what your back end is. And if you say we're using PostgreSQL, they might go, not really, I don't know, because Oracle's tried and trusted. Again, it's the same reasons that people don't get fired for buying IBM.
Do you think that that's like a 5 years ago thinking?
No.
No, let me keep going.
No.
5 years ago, Salesforce may have been posed with questions. We're posed with questions. What's your database? It's Oracle. And then 5 years later, now, as Salesforce has become much more well established in the large enterprise space, what's your database? It's Salesforce. They can just say it's Salesforce. We took PostgreSQL, it's open source, and we made it our own. We own it. It's ours. It's Salesforce. Why not? Because Oracle could say it's Oracle. Why can't Salesforce say it's Salesforce?
Because it's not. It's not Salesforce
it's open
built.
source, so they can take it and do kind of what they want with it, can't they? And then just say it's a Salesforce database.
No, because they say, "What's your database system? What database system are you using?"
It's Salesforce.
It's not. Well, that's a lie. That's like saying, "What's your web server?" It's Arkus. Why? Because we customized Apache. No, you didn't. You're using Apache, or it's Plone, or it's Arkus web server because we customized Plone. No. You are using a name brand and a very well-known open source product, probably top 10, top 15. I think the point was, I thought the point you were getting to was, is Salesforce, is it beyond that now in the world of cloud computing? What is the back end? Not at all. I still see our clients, customers, and prospects still ask those questions, and still at the enterprise level, they're still saying, hey, what is your backend? I want to know. My IT. Again, most IT people, that's sort of their job, is to like dig into people's stuff and to say, oh, is this this and this, and basically to question it, because no one gets, again, you don't get fired for questioning tons of stuff and going and making things more difficult. You only get fired if you don't question and then something happens, like something goes down and they go, well, why didn't you ask what database system they're using? What are the security flaws of Postgres versus Oracle? What are the, so again, I think for most customers, maybe 90, I'm throwing out numbers, this is a big number show, 90% of all of customers, I don't think they care at all. But in terms of percentage of their licenses,
it's like the 80-20 rule.
80% of the licenses care. Right. So if you're Japan Post, if you're Dell, if you're,
Merrill Lynch,
big one, you care, and that they're going to have to talk that around. Again, this is all hype. We don't know this is the actual truth. 40 developers is, while it might seem like a lot in the world of 5,000 or 7,000 employees, it's not. It could be some side project they're doing, and this transition would take
proof of concept or something like that. Or
40 developers, proof of concept.
Just don't change IDs or ID structures.
No,
they've done it before once. Salesforce.
Oh, the 15 to 18.
No. Just the whole structure of it. It has changed once in the past,
and
well back.
I just don't know if this is part of their, because we know that there's a core movement of the core technology, the core database technology, which we know they've been working on. In fact, we saw some of it with analytics, the analytics engines allowing us to do stuff. Is this a sort of a push to like the one that's happening in 3 years, like the one that they're sort of whiteboarding at this point? Possible. Again, the one last thing I say is I love when technology, open source technology, is used by enterprises and forward-thinking enterprises, because in the perfect world, and this happens a lot, the enterprise uses their resources for these open source projects, puts it back into it. So a good example is Apple using WebKit for their Safari. WebKit, was a basically unknown HTML engine that no one even knew of, and all of a sudden Apple uses it for Safari, and then it's now been used by lots of different people, and it's sort of become and the open source movement itself has gone up. So I love it from that standpoint. I just love to see open source projects do well and get sort of backing. And again, it's not official backing, but it's because there needs to be choices. Yes, there's Oracle. Yes, there's MySQL's. I think MySQL's semi-owned now. I love to see open source movement. I like to see that there's choices, and I like to see someone creating stuff that is can compete with these bigger products, and changing the scope of like Rackspace's. We haven't talked about Rackspace's Open Cloud, or is it Open Cloud?
I think we did.
Well, we haven't talked about it in a couple years, or like in 6 months, but it's something now that's become massive, and they're really building an open source cloud computing platform, which is amazing. So anyway, said a lot.
All right.
Next up, speaking of saying a lot, that's my Segui of the day. Everyone talking about social CRM, few are doing it. So this is on customerthink.com. A little survey / it's not a high survey like Gartner survey, but
when one of the choices is yup, then you're not in Gartner territory.
But it was an interesting read this morning, because as we're about to go into CloudForce, business is social, and we talk a lot about social CRM and social business social. This article's coming out saying, hey, listen, that's great. There's a lot of talk about it. Probably like there was a lot of talk about cloud computing 10 years ago.
Right.
But who's really doing it? And then what's it mean? So, some of the stats that come out of this, adoption, this is from the State of Social Media Marketing Awareness, from the Awareness Inc.
Two big numbers there.
Give me the
the big one is the yup. The question is like, are you using it? And the yup is the lowest piece of the pie,
16%.
16%, where 46 is just nope. And
I think
there's a question in the middle there that instead of just saying nope, it's like no but planning on it.
Yeah, that's 21%.
Which is 21%.
But that's like asking you, hey, are you gonna work out? Are you working out, or are you going to plan on working out? It's like,
No,
I'm
but
not
I'm
working out,
planning
but
on
I'm
it.
planning on it.
Yeah, but that's like the better answer from a social CRM advocacy perspective.
Yes.
That's the answer that you'd rather see at 46% than nope. Just
Nope.
flat out no, absolutely not. And then there's the
Worse. I think this is the worst number.
the number that's higher than yup by 1 percentage point is the what is that?
What is that?
What the are you talking about?
Wow, nice.
Almost.
Almost put us into the explicit category. So, interesting sort of looking at that. Again, I think it's harder to... Cloud computing is easier to say you're either using something or not using something. Social CRM is sort of like, well, I'm on Twitter. Am I social? Am I...
Right.
And so I thought an interesting question to you is, how do you define social CRM? If someone, so you're a prospect that comes up to you and says, "Hey, I want to get into social CRM. What is it?" What would you say to them?
And I do this for a living, and it's really hard to explain. I mean, I would try and explain it as well as I could by saying it's the connection between your own personal database of CRM contacts and what those contacts and their connections are doing on the internet, and a sort of melding of them together and being able to use both sources to manage the relationship more effectively. So you have your source, which is like considered your golden copy, right? Their name, their phone number that is theirs, their email address. But also there's all this activity that's happening around this person, whether it's with them, conversations that are happening between them and other people, conversations that are happening between them and you as a salesperson that you're not really aware of, or as a customer service person that they're not really aware of. And it's the melding of those two things together that, to me, make up social CRM. It's not buttons and tools that bring Twitter feeds into context of a thing. That's like the tip of the iceberg to me. It's got to be more all-encompassing, where you're looking at your source and you can meld it against what they've given you. Like they've put themselves out there on the internet. They have all these different personas and profiles of themselves. Like where they work with LinkedIn. What their interests are with Twitter and maybe Pinterest or something else. You know who their friends are, maybe, if you're friends with them on Facebook. So it's that kind of thing where you're not just considering them a contact in your database, but you're also friends with them on Facebook. And then you get to see the interconnectivity between those two things. That was long-winded and not the elevator pitch, but and that's just my perspective on it at this point, because I don't think it's very well defined. It's like saying, what is cloud computing 5 or 6 years ago? I mean, even today, what is cloud computing? Sort of a hard answer to give to somebody who has, who hasn't like dipped even their toe. It's like what's cloud computing?
Right. I think it's one of those things that it's hard to define, but I could list off the things that I could say. If you're doing these things, then you're doing social CRM. So I would say, A, you have a social presence as a company, right? You are out there in the social world. You're on Google+, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter. You're actually doing social things, and interactively, meaning you're not only, pushing out stories like publishing, but you're also interacting with people. So people tweet at you, you tweet back, or they're on Facebook and there's questions and stuff like that. Then I would say you're doing it from the service side. But service side is probably the easiest answer. You will take in service requests and answers or questions from a social channel. You don't say that social channels are not acceptable sort of inputs into your data.
For business.
Well, we're all social CRM. CRM is a business thing. Then you're connecting. Then you're making the connections. You're making connections every time you add a new contact into your CRM system. You're looking to see if they have a Twitter handle, if they have a Facebook page, if they have the YouTube one is kind of useless. But you're looking to see if there are social, or LinkedIn is big. You're looking to see that they're part of a social network, and you're doing some analysis of that. You're looking at it. Whether you're bringing in that data and doing something with it fabulous, like, oh, my client has 32 followers versus this other client who has 452 followers, which I don't think a lot of people are doing, but it's more like you're connecting up the dots.
What I don't like
Yes.
with like kind of what you're saying is it's not just connecting the dots. What I really dislike is when people use LinkedIn's kind of the big culprit here. I don't like getting emails from people on LinkedIn because they've searched for like technology CIO, and they just find me and they're like, your business needs a new mobile strategy, and I'm like, well, that's not social CRM because you don't know who I am at all. Yeah, but see, there's a fine line there, because someone's using, trying to cultivate leads from a social network and sell their products.
Right.
CRM is, cultivating leads, making sales, managing the relationship afterwards. So there's something missing in the way that people are kind of using it now, where they're not connecting the dots, and they should be able to connect the dots with my social profile to understand that maybe I don't need a mobile strategy.
But that's any tool, any communication tool.
I'm not really talking about tools. I'm talking more about the theory around.
But you're talking about a problem with the theory, but that's a problem with every theory. Or it's not. Email is a great example. Email is something that at first started as this private one-to-one conversation, and then over a 10-year period got abused by email marketers and spam. Then the government had to come in and put in stuff to Can Spam Act. So that happens with almost anything, that if something becomes successful and hot, then people will try to use it for what it's not. How many tweets do you get that are like a tweet from some weird-looking name that has a link to a picture or something that you should not click on?
Never.
It's never going to be a good picture. Don't click on that. It's not the picture they say it's going to be.
Never clicking on that one.
Or someone follows you and then you go look at it. So anyway, just to continue, it's like, so not only is it about knowing their social profile, but like it's then about interacting. So yes, I can connect up these things and go, this is the person. I think the last piece is using social as a data source. And I think that's why I'm really excited about stuff like data.com social key, because using it as a way to, as a source of data. So taking in, scrubbing my CRM data with social data. So pulling that in well. And again, it'd be nice if it were less expensive or whatever, but like the ability to look at a contact and go, great, I've connected them up to all these places. Now click a button and show me they have a profile picture here, and here. They have their hometown listed. They have their phone numbers listed on all these places. Pull that stuff in and make those social networks part of my CRM, but in my CRM, so I have it moving forward. Because one question I asked us, and I know we're kind of move on here, but I asked, are we a social CRM? Do we use social CRM? And I kind of was like, out of a scale of 1 to 10, I gave myself like, I'm going to go like a 3. Like 10 being the most social CRM on the planet, 1 being whatever, 0. I was like,
1 being nope.
Nope. I was like, we try. We definitely do stuff in the social space. We definitely participate in all those social networks. I don't feel like in our sales cycle I would ever go dig into someone's like Twitter feed and read over 20 or 60 of their last tweets and go, oh, I saw that they're also talking to a competitor or whatever. I don't think that way yet. So even me, who's sort of in this game as well, I was like, you know what? I think we do an okay job, but I think there's a long way to go before I consider that sort of a source of information.
I think we do a nice job with our partners.
Yep.
On the social CRM side, more than our prospects and clients.
Right. And I think part of it is also like an invasion of privacy. It's not become the 100% norm to just be in everybody's face in every single channel. I might connect up to you. So if you're a client of ours, I might connect up using Salesforce, social profiles. I might connect up to you, but and find your Twitter handle or find your LinkedIn. But that doesn't mean LinkedIn. I'd probably just go connect up, no problem. But that doesn't mean I'm going to tweet at you immediately like, "Hey, had a great meeting," because I still think there's a privacy thing that people haven't wrapped their head around and are still kind of like, "Yeah, I don't want you to do that yet." We've had clients, tweet at us when they're late for a meeting.
Yes, we have.
For a conference call, like, "Hey, I'm late," and tweeting at us. That's fine. And, I think part of being a social CRM is saying, if that's the way you want to communicate, fine. So anyway, interesting article. Go read up on it. It's called Everyone is Talking About Social CRM, but few are doing it. It's on customerthink.com. Came out today. All right, well, let's get to our CloudFocus app picks of the week. I see you have one written down, so that's good.
I do.
Let's go for it.
New one that came out this week that I saw in the newsletter, the Salesforce for Social Good, which comes out from the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Company that we like, called Groundwire, that makes a lot of free products for not-for-profits. This one's not free.
I like free.
Oh. This one's not free.
Oh, I don't like this one. Free.
Well, this one's really cool. This one, I feel like this one is, I'm sure it was started well before, but it's going to be part of the push that the foundation helps to move people away from Convio, Common Ground, and because Convio, Common Ground did a lot of high-end things, and I feel like this product here called Groundwire Engage does some things that Salesforce out-of-the-box reporting nonprofit starter pack can't necessarily do. It allows you to tag and really tag and categorize your constituency in ways that are more meaningful for you. So categorizing them based on last activities and donations that they've made and membership in different campaigns, and then allow you to measure effectiveness along the lines of who am I actually engaging with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice, easy, configurable stuff that a typical admin, maybe even a power user would be able to configure and set up. Put some nice roll-up screens and categorization screen abilities on certain donors, and also that there's a tool in here called the Gratitude Machine, which is kind of interesting because it allows you to segment lists even further to say show me people who show me people who I've called 10 times, or show me people who we've engaged with on more than X amount, and put them in a category, and then sort of run a little report and reach out to those people and give thanks and help you move people from one stage to the next stage to the next stage of engagement with your organization. Nice. So a nice way to see the level of participation your constituents or your supporters have with you, and then a way to get them into a greater level of participation with you. So
very
that was
cool.
Interesting. I haven't really gotten a chance to play with it because it's kind of new, and it's the pricing is for nonprofits. It's $960 a year.
Is that per user?
Nonprofit.
Per nonprofit. So a nonprofit per org pricing. That's very interesting. Groundwire Engage is on the App Exchange, and it'll be linked in our post on the CloudFocus weekly post when we post it. As they always are. I don't even think we mentioned that. We don't link the articles we talk about, but I don't know. We just don't.
Yeah, you can find those. There's this tool. It's called Google. It's called Google. Of the week.
Bing. Use Bing. Yeah. Bing it.
Use Apple Search.
All right. Well, mine is not as interesting, although mine is much better priced because it's free.
Is it?
So I'm actually using a platform. I'm going to talk about the platform because it's something that's been across. It's on almost everything. It's called Speed Test. And the reason I talk about this, I put this on my list the other day because I was using it with the new 4G LTE phones. It's fun to see as you walk around your neighborhood and you see the LTE. You're like, oh, how fast really is this? So when I was walking around my neighborhood the other day and I was seeing 22 megabits down, I was like, wow,
that's nice.
That's some serious speed. And I was using Speed Test. So Speed Test, it's called Speed Test X, but there are sort of many different variations. You can go to speedtest.net, which is the one I use when I'm at work. I want to see is this a good connection or not. Speed Test X, there's a Speed Test X, there's a Speed Test X HD for iPads, which I use. But I use this thing all the time because I'm just like, whenever you're watching Netflix or you're having a problem with something on your network, you're like, oh, is it me or is it the service? I always use this. It pops it up and just it shows you on a sort of a speedometer how fast your connection is, and does up, down, and does a ping. It's a great way just to say, oh, it's not me, it's the service. I was having problems with streaming NFL games the other day, and I went on just to check to see, and it was my service. My RCN was very good. it was them, so I sort of complained to them. Anyway, speedtest.net, SpeedTestX, and SpeedTestX HD, all part of the suite. They're all free. They'll have ads and ad support thing. Pretty cool. Check it out, and definitely use it as, if you're ever have a question of why is things coming down so slow, I just pop this open and start testing all the time. You can actually share them. You can put them up to Twitter. You can I always take screenshots and send them off to people, which I find funny. All right, well, that's it for CloudFocus Weekly for this week. Hope to see some of you tomorrow. I've been getting lots of tweets and emails from people getting their iPod Nanos, so if you're our winner, you should have gotten it by now. If we didn't tell who the winners are because we kind of had a privacy thing, so we can't tell the winners are, but you should have gotten it by now, so you should know. But we've gotten all the Twitter, so thanks for everybody for participating. Remember that we're going to keep the love alive in the Dreamforce portal. We have a portal group there where we post stuff, so if you want to follow us there, you can. We're also on Twitter, twitter.com/ArkusInc, and Jason M. Atwood and Just Edelstein. We're also on the Facebook. We do engage socially at facebook.com/ArkusInc. We do LinkedIn as well, so if you want to follow us on a corporate side, you can follow our page there. We'll post all blogs and all podcasts as well. And finally, subscribe to the podcast in iTunes or your podcast du jour listener. We're big Instacast fans, and even though I tried to go to podcasts the other day, the Apple product, I went back to Instacast.
Of course you did.
Yeah, they still doesn't do the one thing I want to do, which is just download them in the background whenever they come out and not have to go into the app. But I think that's a limitation of the iOS. All right, so till next week, from Jake and Justin here in the podcasting studio, enjoy those cloudy days.